first thing built in public. If you're a founder who has an idea, the best way for you to get a result, if it's going to work or not, is to put it in front of the public that you want to sell it to. If you can get yourself out there on socials, if you can create content, if you can connect with an audience, get their feedback, that's invaluable gold for you, because you're going to be able to, without even launching or without even going into production costs, already get a feedback from the people who might buy from you. The keyword there is going to be resilience. You need to be extremely resilient, especially with the competition that is there nowadays. Like, we all know that the job market is as tough as it has never been. We have fewer roles, we have more selection when it comes to candidates. What really helps there is to also detach yourself from the perception that people have of you. Whenever we talk about putting yourself out there, we're not really scared about our own judgment of ourselves. We're scared of the outside judgment about what we might be doing. And the funny thing is that everybody's actually in that position, because the people you think might judge you are probably also worried that you might judge them for something else. Whether you're brave or not brave, you need to put yourself in a position where you don't give your brain the chance to stop you from doing something.
Hi Earthlings, welcome back to the Life Instructions podcast. I am your host Oumaima, and today we have a very special episode for you. I'm sitting down for an empowering chat with an absolute powerhouse in the world of business, tech, and marketing. Soukayna's journey is nothing short of incredible. She is a true global citizen who was born in Morocco, grew up in Tuscany, and has lived everywhere from Montpellier, London, Dublin, Dubai, and Berlin. She has built an insane resume working at top-tier companies like FinTech, Zalando, Google, Meta, but she didn't stop there. Soukayna is a visionary entrepreneur, a keynote speaker, and a brand and AI expert. She started creating content on LinkedIn in 2021, published a book, built her own branding company in Dubai, and successfully secured sponsorships by mapping out concrete business plans. We will also dive into her incredibly inspiring choice to start wearing hijab in November 2022. Instead of letting traditional fears hold her back, she used her identity as her ultimate superpower to open doors in massive corporate spaces. We'll also be talking about her latest venture, Kaya, a beautiful community dedicated to women building intentional lives, which she just launched this past May. If you're a recent graduate, looking to pivot in your career, or just need the push to stop playing small and build your personal brand, Soukayna is here to drop absolute gems for you today. So let's get right into it. Soukayna, welcome to Life Instructions.
Thank you so much for having me, Oumaima. You know, it's always so funny, those 30 seconds where someone is introducing you in the third person. You're sitting there and you're like, hey, that's me. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and I can't wait for our conversation.
So excited. So you have such an incredible rich background. You were born in Morocco, you grew up in Tuscany and all the other countries you lived in. How did adapting to all these different cultures and languages shape your superpower for connecting with people today?
Oh, that's a very, very good question, honestly. I feel like growing up, I didn't really realize the impact that, those choices were having on me, especially because I moved very often as a kid. As you mentioned, I was born in Morocco, grew up in Italy. So we moved to Italy when I was 3, so I was still a child. And I lived in Italy until I was 16. Then my parents decided to move the family to south of France. So let's say I wasn't the one taking those decisions, but at the end of the day, I think I was one of the kids that benefited the most from them because I'm the oldest daughter. So I had the chance to, let's say, absorb culturally and even from a language perspective, something from every country that I lived in. So obviously, as you mentioned, it gave me the opportunity to speak different languages. I speak Italian, I speak French, English, Arabic, Spanish. And I think that itself is already, an icebreaker, because when you meet someone and you speak their language, then you can instantly vibe no matter where you guys come from or which backgrounds you have. But I think it also shaped my personality in a way that it made me extremely open-minded. I was very used to being the new person in the room. So the new student in the classroom who joined mid-year, the new person who comes into a group of friends and has to kind of make her own space. So I think that really taught me to build a very strong identity for myself and to be very comfortable with the uncomfortable also, which I think is a trait we will probably come back to when we talk about entrepreneurship. But yeah, just gave me the confidence and the, let's say, inspiration to put myself in places where I'm not comfortable and to still find my own place there, even if I'm the last person to maybe make it to that group.
That is truly key. And we have also to talk about the fact that we were at Google at the same time and completely missed each
we
other.
haven't met.
And it's meant to be that right timing right now. How was that experience for you in Dublin?
I loved Google. I think me moving to Dublin and moving to Google was really a dream come true. It was my first entry door into big tech. And I still remember I was so happy packing my suitcases, living in Dublin for, this big tech company life. And within Google, I met some friends who I think are friendships for life that I still see today, that I still travel with. So I think from that perspective, Dublin was really enriching and Google was really enriching for my career as well. I feel like a big part of my personality during the past 5 years was born during that phase. You mentioned me wearing hijab. That happened during my time at Google, for instance.
Mm.
And also my first door and my first footstep into public speaking happened within my time at Google. So I think it's a time of my life that I will always cherish and I will always come back to with so many good memories. On the other front, Dublin was not my favorite city. I loved Irish people. I think Irish people are some of the most welcoming people that I've met. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you can second that. But I think for me, there was a big cultural shock, like moving from very big cities into a small city. And I felt like I really missed my ecosystem and I really missed my, let's say, group of lifelong friends that I had in Berlin. So I
Mhm.
was also very happy when I decided to move back to Germany.
Love it. You've built an insane resume, like from FinTech, Zalando, Google, and now Meta. So for the recent graduates who will feel completely overwhelmed by the job market, what is the mindset they need to adopt to get their foot in the door at these top tier companies?
I think the key word there is going to be resilience. You need to be extremely resilient, especially with the competition that is there nowadays. Like we all know that the job market is as tough as it has never been. We have fewer roles, we have more selection when it comes to candidates. I think that you really need to be resilient and creative. You mentioned the fact that I started creating content in 2021, and I think very strongly that that's one of the things that got me to Google because I was able to get noticed by a recruiter on LinkedIn. And that is just an example of how, as a candidate, you can stand out. Like instead of just focusing on filling a resume, applying, and then waiting for an approval or a rejection email, find creative ways to make sure companies notice you, either if it's through content, either if it's through a podcast, maybe connecting with people working in that company and asking for a coffee chat. I think the market today really rewards thinking out of the box in some way,
Mhm.
in the way that you get noticed, because your future employer is already going to have a very good image and a very good idea of you as someone who doesn't just follow the status quo, but really tries to go above and beyond. So I think that would be my very first tip for graduates for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I also didn't apply to Google. They reached out, so it's funny how these things work. But
I know,
you don't
right?
just create content; you build entire brands from the ground up. So
Yeah.
you map out concrete business plans, and you actually secure sponsorships. Where did this sharp, visionary, entrepreneurial mindset come from?
I think I've always been an entrepreneur growing up. I just started realizing recently that even when I was 16 or 17, I was leading into the direction of coming up with business plans, either if it was like making cake for my friends and then selling it to strangers within high school or things like that. I think I've grown up being someone who was very passionate about self-help books and empowerment and mindset. So I've been reading a lot of psychological and business content from a very young age. And I think I'm someone who's also very bold and who's not scared of failing or trying. So whenever I have an idea in mind, I just sit down with myself and I come up with a plan for it. And then I'm like, okay, let's test it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it's something I can learn from 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And I think that combination of hunger, of curiosity for absorbing content, and then the ease to speak to people and to exchange ideas and to make things happen puts you in a very good spot because whenever I have an idea, I don't overthink the execution. I just jump straight away into execution mode. And I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, that's something that has helped me a lot. And going back to your question also about building brands from the ground up, I think something that people forget very often is that you don't need to have a successful brand for people to start following you or to engage with your content. I think the most crucial thing you can do is to really document the journey. So in my case, I'm someone who goes from 0 to 100 straight away, and I'm able to bring an audience with me through the process. And I'm very open about the ups, the downs, the what is working, what it isn't. And I think that sounds much more inspiring and more human than someone who's just showing, the work and the result of 10 years, 15 years of work to someone who's just starting. So I think that's a key concept when it comes to telling your story. Storytelling in general, it's taking the public with you from a point A to a
Mhm.
point B and documenting the journey publicly with them.
So true. The process is so much more exciting. That messy
I
middle, that's
agree.
where people relate more. And for the aspiring founders and creators that are watching, what are your absolute best actionable tips for mapping out a business vision and actually getting sponsors on board?
Good question. So I think just to build up on what we said, first thing, build in public. If you're a founder who has an idea, the best way for you to get a result, if it's going to work or not, is to put it in front of the public that you want to sell it to. And so many founders underestimate that because they think they need an MVP. They need to test everything internally. But at the end of the day, your internal team is not the one purchasing or using your product. So if you can get yourself out there on socials, if you can create content, if you can connect with an audience, get their feedback, I think that's invaluable gold for you because you're going to be able to, without even launching or without even going into production costs, already get a feedback from the people who might buy from you. I think that's the first one. The second one is to put yourself in rooms where you can connect with other people who have the same vision as you. So
Mhm.
there are so many networking events, so many speaking events, so many places where you can come, pitch your idea, but also get inspiration and feedback from other people. And I would say for founders that feedback is invaluable, especially from people who are building on the same journey as you. Because sometimes you're able to save yourself, I don't know, like 2 years of mistakes because you learn from someone who maybe has gone through the path and now has the knowledge. So I would say, first of all, exposition, and second of all, communication. Definitely
Mhm.
two things to not take for granted.
I love this. And you mentioned creating content back in 2021, and you even published a book and you
Yeah.
built your own branding company in Dubai. Can you take us back to that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So, how did the book, first of all, start? So, I started creating content in 2021. My content initially was a lot around self development, but also career, how to build a CV, how to present yourself in a job interview. So, I was really talking to myself as like 1 year ago me. What is it that I learned now? And if I had to help 1 year ago Soukayna, what are the
Mhm.
tips that I would tell her? And funnily enough, I realized that my audience on LinkedIn was very interested in that content. So I had a lot of students following me from France, but also from other countries. I had also people who were already in their company for like a few years or were in their role for a few years. And they also resonated with my point of view as someone who was younger. So I think that was also very inspiring. And I was getting a lot of questions and a lot of DMs about specific things. And I decided to put all of that knowledge into a book. So that's how my first book was born, Graduate. And Graduate is essentially the response to what is it that happens for a student after they graduate from university. So we all know that when we go to school, we have so many things that we learn, so many subjects, especially university. You can choose your specialties, you can do 100 courses, a lot of theory, but I feel like there is a huge gap between the theory we grasp in school or in college and the practical side of things that the employer asks us for when we actually join the company. And I think the goal of my book is to really bridge that gap and to
Mhm.
bring to these students, let's say, a first taste of what it's like to work in a company, but to also touch base a lot on everything that is soft skills, social skills. As I said, we talk a lot about hard skills. We learn how to practically do or build things, but we don't talk about how to present ourselves, how to
Mhm.
talk about the things we do. And Graduate essentially focuses on that. And it also has a big part about mindset and how about the perception that you have of yourself, the perception that you have of your skills is most likely the thing that is going to shape your career more than where you graduated from, how prestigious your degree is. And so I think it's a very good place to start for everyone who's interested in career development. And then from my content, which was very centered around career, I kind of started naturally shifting into something new at the time, which is personal branding. When I started posting content about personal branding, it was around the beginning of 2022. The term was still very new on LinkedIn. It was a very blurry line between career and branding. Nobody knew where to draw it. But so many people had started talking more and more about how to brand yourself, how to make sure that you build a good brand for yourself within your, workplace. And when I started creating content about personal branding, I quickly realized that a lot of professionals were also interested in it. And that essentially became my niche somehow without even me knowing. And that's also what got me my first speaking gigs, my first conferences where I started speaking. And that's where the agency part comes in. So I had a lot of founders, especially within the GCC, who reached out to me asking me, hey, like, we see what you built on LinkedIn. This is amazing. We would love to implement this and to make sure we can sign new clients, get a bigger audience, and get more exposure for our business on LinkedIn. I think obviously we all know that LinkedIn is one of the platforms where most decision makers are, most high earner people are. So for
Mhm.
B2B businesses, it's extremely crucial to have a presence there and especially to have a presence that is founder led. So this is also something that I've noticed during my time creating content about the topic. There is a lot of research, even from LinkedIn side, comparing what we call company brands to founder led brands. So for instance, Oumaima has a company. Let's say her company is called, I don't know, ABC. If Oumaima creates content as the founder of ABC, she's going to get much more traction than if she's creating content from ABC page as a company.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think there was a very huge shift in the B2B space because we also realized that CEOs from big companies, for instance, like Google or even Meta, get much more traction under their own personal posts from the LinkedIn account than Google's page or Meta's page,
Yeah.
even if they have like literally millions of followers. I think that's when personal branding really started booming. And I think I kind of joined that wave at the right time. I was extremely interested in the topic. And I love the idea that personal branding doesn't just help you to realize your skills, but to also confidently talk about yourself and to
Mhm.
position yourself in a way that is very smart and strategic to make sure you can attract the right opportunities. So essentially, I decided to transform this into a business. I set up a company in Dubai, So I had clients in the GCC, as I mentioned, in Saudi, but also in Qatar and Dubai. And essentially what I was doing initially was a lot of one-to-one coaching. So I was helping those founders to build their own personal brand. And then very quickly I scaled to group coaching. So I was working with accelerators in the region, and I was bringing 20, 25 founders in the same room and teaching them about how to build a brand that could actually attract them credibility, but also clients for their company without having to massively invest into ads from the very first place.
You're talking from the B2B perspective, but if you're talking from the B2C and it's just one individual that are trying to have their personal brand within their job, like how important do you think that is? And
I think it's also essential. And this is a question I get a lot. Like, if I'm not a founder and I'm just someone who's working in a company or at C-level, is it really something that matters? I think it does. Because first of all, as we mentioned, you get much more visibility than the company page. So you can become an advocate for the company that you're working for. And you can build an audience or maybe even inspire your clients who can be following you on the platform. And second of all, I think if you're someone who's aiming for a promotion, who wants to grow their career or to have leverage internally, but also externally, having a strong personal brand on LinkedIn or honestly in any other platform, I think Instagram is also something that is growing a lot. And we will talk about that in the end with Kaya too. But I think having that credibility, having that audience, that presence is something that really serves as social proof of your skills outside of your job. Because at the end of the day, people don't see what you do on your day to day. They don't see the impact that you have within your own job. They just see the result of how you put yourself out there, how you talk about your accomplishments. And I think in the world where we live today, it's going to keep becoming more and more important for sure.
So true. You also mentioned that you were brave and bold from the beginning, but a lot of career changers and grads are terrified to put themselves out there. Can you just elaborate why is building a personal brand an absolute necessity today, and how do they start without feeling like imposters?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to come back to what you mentioned. I think whether you're brave or not brave, you need to put yourself in a position where you don't give your brain the chance to stop you from doing something. And when I say that I was brave from the beginning, that's exactly what I mean. Like, of course, as every other individual, I was scared. I didn't know how. I was embarrassed. I was like, what if it doesn't work? It's so weird. Maybe it's cringe. I think the real difference is to do it even if you think that. So you trick your brain into action instead of overthinking. And then you give yourself a certain amount of time and you're like, okay, let's do this for 1 month or 2 months. If I really see zero difference, then maybe it's time to reevaluate or try something else. But if I get at least one interesting conversation from it, then maybe I'm really onto something. And I think what really helps there is to also detach yourself from the perception that people have of you. And I know that this is the reason that I hear probably 99% out of 100 times whenever we talk about putting yourself out there, we're not really scared about our own judgment of ourselves. We're scared of the outside judgment about what we might be doing. And the funny thing is that everybody's actually in that position because the people you think might judge you are probably also worried that you might judge them for something else. So I think being the one who really leads by example, who does it, who brings other people with them on the way is actually going to make you very, let's say, like put you in a very spotlight position because you're going to be inspiring other people on the same way and you're going to grow your own audience and get to the goal that you wanted to get to in the first place. So I would say jump to it without overthinking for sure.
But I always end my podcast saying like, do it messy, do it scared, do it imperfect,
Do
do it
it.
anyways, because otherwise you will never feel ready. You mentioned being cringe at the beginning, and I love the reel that you posted on Instagram. It's always cringe at first until you inspire someone. So do you want to share your journey over the past 10 months growing your Instagram business?
100%. So I'm very new to Instagram. I always had an account that was private, like 20 followers, no profile picture, just stalking my friends' profiles and liking everything where they posted. But I think very recently I've tried to establish a bridge between my LinkedIn and my Instagram. For a very long time, I think with Instagram, I was lost into a perfectionist kind of transition phase where I was thinking, I don't know, what do I post about and videos, and I don't have videos of me. I don't know which videos to do. And then I decided that the first way to do it is to basically understand what message do I want to convey through my Instagram. And I think for me, the goal is to really, as I said, bridge my LinkedIn content into Instagram. So I post a lot about inspiration, tech, women empowerment, career. That's something I've been able to bring to my own personal Instagram and to post consistently has really helped me to reach the right audience. And going back to your question about Kaya, so one thing I realized during the past years working in tech, but also, having my own business, meeting clients, is that something I'm really good is bringing people together. So it's very easy for me to inspire people to come into a room and to listen to maybe a keynote or to meet other people or to grow their business. And I realized that maybe there was a connection to be made there between that passion or that skill set that I have and the need that there is today in the market. And I feel like today when we talk about AI and marketing and tech, there is a lot happening, but when we talk about human connection and community, there is a lot that's also supposed to happen that maybe we're not allowing each other to experience because we're too focused on the world of tomorrow. And I
Mhm.
think at the core of every technological wave are humans and is human connection. And for me, it was really important to transfer these skills that I have and put them into practice by creating a safe space where I could bring together women who are really motivated, who want to learn, who want to meet people who are inspiring as they are, and to really, as I said, create this safe space that people can come to. And that's something that I decided to do with Kaya. So Kaya was born from that combination between skill sets and passion for bringing people together. I started posting content on the Kaya account beginning or mid of May, so very recently actually. And very quickly we grew to almost 1,600 followers. So it was actually very clear from the beginning that there was a niche there and there was
Yeah.
a lot of, interest from women to come or to join the spaces where they could create, be themselves and just, feel like they're becoming their best version. And so we hosted our first launch dinner 2 weeks ago and we had 13 women who joined around the table, absolutely mesmerizing. Like each one of them had an incredible background, and I feel like they're actually the ones who made the evening incredibly amazing. And now we're expanding with an event planned again in Berlin next month, but also with London mid of August. So I think it's growing really fast. Right now, I feel like it's going faster than I thought it would be. So I wouldn't say I have a clear plan of what it's going to be in, I don't know, 6 months or 1 year. But I think the mission or the vision that I really want to keep at the core is that I want women to come to one of our events and to really feel like they're happy, like they're working towards something. And when they leave and they go back home, they have something exciting to talk about with their friends or their
Mhm.
partner, because coming to these kind of events has really helped them to learn something, discover something about themselves, or maybe just find the strength to launch their own thing, to speak in public, whatever it is that they're trying to achieve.
I love it, and what I love most about it is that you mentioned offline that you keep the spots limited, which is really game changing in that network. So you want to
100%.
elaborate more on that? Like,
Yeah.
so what can people take from it?
Totally. So I've been myself invited to a lot of networking events. And I feel like whenever I went, there were probably like 50, 60 people in the same room. And it was very hard to build those genuine connections because maybe you're speaking to someone and someone else comes and, it's just very rushed and there is no time to just sit down and do nothing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not speak about a specific topic, no pressure to talk about, I don't know, your company's KPIs or whatever it is. Just sit down, grab a drink, grab a glass of water, and talk about what you enjoy, what you want to do, what is your vision, what makes you happy, what makes you stressed. So I think for me, keeping the tickets limited is really a way to create that intimate environment and to make sure that every person who joins is feeling included and that
Mm-hmm.
everyone really has a chance to speak to others, to listen, and to share their story and not just to join as an outsider.
Truly love it. As an introvert, the smaller the better. There's even science on like how big a group has to be for these sessions to be productive, so you're doing everything right. And I want to move to a part of your story that I find personally so incredibly inspiring. You started wearing the hijab in November 2022, and instead of the traditional fear that it might limit corporate opportunities, it actually opened doors for you. So can you talk more about that?
100%. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I think for me, it was something that I wanted to do for so many years, but growing up in the West, I was somehow always scared that it would affect my career, especially growing up in France, which, as we all know, is not the most Muslim friendly country in the world. My priorities were. And I was also starting to get interest into public speaking. And I was like, one thing that is really blocking me from doing this is that I feel like I'm not going to be displaying the version of myself to the world that I want to be. Like, there is still a gap for me that I want to take or that I want to achieve before I actually put myself on those stages. Once I started wearing hijab, I really felt like for me that was the answer to something that was really missing within my life and something that I wanted to do for such a long time, but that I was so scared of doing. And as someone who has said, like, he's really bold and who's really action driven, I was always asking myself, okay, but if you're so action driven, like, why is the thing that is the most important to you right now not happening? So I think for me, it really took a leap of faith. Like, I always say this to my close friends in Dublin as well. Like, I literally woke up on a Friday and I put it on, and then I never took it off since. There was no plan. There was no, like, I don't know, I'm going to put it on tomorrow, or like not even ordering a bunch of hijabs in advance. Like, I had one hijab that I was using for praying. I'm like, I'll wear it. I'll figure out the rest. And like, subhanallah, the way that it opened doors for me within
Mm-hmm.
Dublin, within my career at Google, but also within public speaking was incredible. And for me, there was also a response from God that it was the right decision for me at the time. And, to be put in that position where I can be proud of myself, but I can also inspire other women to understand that you can actually combine your values, your faith with your job and still be successful at both. I feel like it's such a blessing and it really gives me purpose and meaning in my career. that maybe before I was missing, because like now when I go on stage, whatever event I'm speaking at, I know exactly what I'm representing and I know exactly what I'm standing for.
I love it. Like, what does it mean to you to show up in these massive tech spaces and represent women of our faith? Because we really need to reframe the narrative so girls see their identity as their ultimate power, like you said. Like, you weren't feeling as your true self, and that piece is what completed you. So, what does that mean to you?
I think for me, it really shows that it's possible, that representation is possible. And I'm not just talking about the hijab, I'm also talking from women coming from any background. For me, like I always grew up, in a family environment where most female members of my family were actually wearing the hijab. And I feel like for them, it stopped them on so many instances, like also seeing like my own mom's journey, like living in France, how hard it was for her to wear it and to keep it on. Like for me, being able to be someone who's happy, who's accomplished, who's doing things she loves, and to also carry my faith through the hijab that I wear, like is really a statement for myself that it's possible, but also somehow for every other woman who maybe is scared to put it, every other woman who has it on and is struggling with it, or maybe just any other woman who feels like she has something that differentiates her from the rest. And instead of seeing it as a strength, she's letting her hold her back from achieving something. So I think for me, it's really about empowerment and pushing people to come as they are and to not have to choose between their core values and whatever they want to achieve in this world.
I truly couldn't agree more. Like, the only reason I am out here, because for me as an introvert, it truly is not my natural habitat. And it's just to tell people you can be vulnerable and authentic and highly sensitive and still succeed in this world, because the world was not yet adapted to introverts. And so having whatever it is that pushes you back, like you said, doesn't have to be hijab, whatever you think is a weakness, as long as you are at peace with it and can go out there and be like, this is actually what makes me unique, and I'm gonna lead with it before you even using it against me. It's gonna be my superpower. So
100%. And maybe funny to share also, but I'm also an introvert, which is something you're probably not gonna be.
I knew it immediately. I know, you know why? Because they never guess. Like at work, when I joined at Google, I was organizing these volunteering events, always speaking, always leading. And they're like, there is no way you're an introvert. And I'm like, being an introvert does not mean that you are shy or you cannot speak on stages or you cannot organize stuff. Being an introvert just means that you need to nap after that and take
it means
a bath.
that like 6 p.m. you need to go home if you want people to have a good image of you the next day. You need to leave at some point.
So the social battery is just very fragile.
100%.
But for young women who are trying to build their career, why is cultivating a community of like-minded people like you did and with Kaya, like empowering women, the ultimate career hack?
I think for so many reasons, but I'm going to try to put them into different pillars. The first one is mindset. I think being around people who push you up, like it's actually proven scientifically that it influences your brain chemistry. It influences the way you think about yourself, the way you relate to your goals, how you expand your vision into something bigger than what you had known. So I think putting yourself in those spaces as a woman can only do you good, because the things that you thought were not possible start becoming your new norm. And that's how you start unlocking new levels of growth. And I think on the other side of things, it gives you connection and access to opportunities from a networking perspective. So it pushes you to meet people who maybe have gone on the same journey as you and have more experience. It pushes you to meet potential clients for the brand that you have just launched. It pushes you to be exposed to mentorship, perhaps from someone who's going to be able to guide you and to really help you shape your career. So I think on so many instances, it just allows you to become the best version of yourself and to really learn from other people's journeys.
I truly couldn't agree more. And coming to the end, like I want to ask you, is there anything that you had wanted to touch on that I didn't ask you today, or anything that is important to you that you don't want to share?
Good question. So I think one thing I want to say before we end the episode is that I'm so grateful to be here. And I think the work you're doing with this podcast is incredible. And the impact of it is incredible, because this is exactly the kind of rooms we need. We need to bring people together who can share their stories, to be able to inspire the next generation, but to also show what's possible, especially in our case, from Moroccans coming from Morocco, working so hard to achieve something for themselves. It's important to show the journey of the people who made it, to inspire them to get out of their comfort zone as well. I would say that's the first thing. But other than that, I think we kind of touched base on pretty much everything.
Thank you so much. I'm still looking forward to get you on the Shkun Hina Shkun edition and deep dive for everyone who's not English speaking, to get to know you in Moroccan and get to know you at a personal level, because I feel like we just unpacked 1% of your amazing layered personality. And truly, what an incredibly empowering conversation. I hope you took as many notes as I did, from decoding the big tech playbook to understanding why the hijab could be a superpower and how how to build a personal brand from scratch. Soukayna truly dropped so many actionable gems today. And if you want to keep up with her journey and get daily inspiration, you can follow her on Instagram at with Soukayna or connect with her on LinkedIn. And if you are a woman looking for your village and want to network with other female founders or just empowering women, be sure to check out her amazing community at Join Kaya. I will put also the link to your book because I really want all the graduates to get it. I wouldn't think that my mission is successful until every single Moroccan is on the right path while being their true self. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Life Instructions. If you loved it, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend who needs a career or a mindset boost today. And remember, if you have a dream, don't wait to feel ready. Do it imperfect, do it scared, do it messy, do it anyway. See you in the next episode.
Thank you so much. See you.
Thank you.